You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, Erica L. Ayala here, and I am here to preview the Isobel Cup Final between the Toronto Six, which is the number 2 seed coming in from the regular season, and the number 4 seed, the Minnesota Whitecaps. Now, first, let's go over how these teams got here. For the Minnesota Whitecaps, out of 7 teams, only 4 get in, and they were the last in. Not only was Minnesota the low seed coming into the playoffs, but they were on an 8-game skid. That's right, 8-game losing streak heading into the postseason to play in the semifinals the top-seeded Boston Pride. And yet somehow Minnesota pulled off a miracle in a 3-game series. They swept the Boston Pride in the clincher of the series. Goaltender Amanda Levier made 47 of 48 saves. That's right, she only let in 1 goal as her offense powered the Minnesota Whitecaps to the 2023 Isobel Cup Final. Now, the Minnesota Whitecaps were an expansion team in the 2018-19 season, and they won the Isobel Cup in their inaugural season. However, it's been a slow decline since that first year. They've always had great goaltending from Amanda Levier, but at times have struggled with their defensive structure and maybe more so defensive discipline. Now, that's not to say that they haven't had great blue liners, including veteran Amanda Boulier, but they just wanted to be a more run and gun team. And as the league got better, especially on the defensive side and in net, the Minnesota Whitecaps struggled a bit to get past some amazing goaltending. So the Minnesota Whitecaps, if you like underdogs, you might want to root for them, but beware. The final for the Isobel Cup, named after Lady Isabel, the daughter of Lord Stanley, who, of course, the Stanley Cup is named after. They are an offensive powerhouse. So we talked about Amanda Levier. If you're looking at scoring, you have to look at Jonna Albers. She is an amazing offensive powerhouse. She plays well in all 3 zones, doesn't get enough credit for what she does defensively in particular, but Jonna Albers in game 1 of the semifinal alone scored a shorthanded goal. She scored an empty net goal, and she scored on the power play. She has quick speed. She's got great strength on the puck and can really make Swiss cheese out of any defense. So that's Minnesota. But who are they going up against? The number 2 seed overall, the Toronto Six. And similarly to the Whitecaps, the MO for the Toronto Six in the last few seasons has been run and gun and have a good goaltender behind them. So we'll start there. Elaine Chuli. Just like Levier has won goaltender of the year in the league in the past, Elaine Chuli got a 3-0 shutout, putting away the Connecticut Whale for the Toronto Six to clinch a spot into the final in Game 3. The Toronto Six had to go to a Game 3 because the Connecticut Whale, a very disciplined team, was able to be effective on the power play. And if there's an Achilles heel for the Toronto Six, it is that they can be undisciplined when it comes to taking penalties. But as defender Soraya Tinker said during Game 3, when we are 5-on-5, they can't hang with us. Kind of paraphrased it a little bit, but that's how Toronto wants to play. Now, Minnesota, not the greatest team on the power play, but I am very curious, especially since it's playoff hockey and it's a 1-game final, how special teams is going to factor in. Now, another thing you need to know about Toronto, their defenders are pretty tall and they skate well. Toronto has been a team that, whether it's Tinker, as I just mentioned, Katie Tabin, or Lindsay, they get a lot of productivity from their defense. And that makes them dangerous in transition because you can spring players like Brittany Howard, Daryl Watts, who joined the team mid-season, and of course, Michaela Cava, who put on heroics in game 2 to get them equal in the 3-game series. So lots of options up front for the Toronto Six, which are really going to cause problems for Minnesota if, again, they don't find discipline defensively. That being said, the Boston Pride, the top team in the league with a nearly plus 50 goal differential, couldn't find their way through Amanda Levier and the Minnesota Whitecaps. So as far as predictions, I'm just going to say it like this. We're going to get some really good hockey. And if you want to find out more, head over to premierhockeyfederation.com. The final will be in Tempe, Arizona at Mullett Arena. Now, the Arizona Coyotes are hosting the Colorado Avalanche in the afternoon, and then this will be an evening tilt, 6 p.m. local time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can also find it on ESPN2 and TSN. Now, I will be at the arena. I'm already in Arizona, and I will be doing some stuff for those attending in person. So if you see me around, come say hi. Either way, this is going to be a great show for the Premier Hockey Federation. Before I turn you back over to Rachel and Gil, a few other things that you need to know. The Premier Hockey Federation and the Professional Hockey Writers Association have partnered up, and yours truly is going to be the chair of a new women's hockey chapter. And we are going to vote for the first time officially through the Professional Hockey Writers Association for MVP. So who are some MVP candidates? Well, you've got Lauren Gable, 20 goals, 20 assists in her first season in the PHF. She plays for the Boston Pride. Corrine Schroeder, you want to talk about making saves. She had at least 4 of her 8 shutouts in the regular season, where she was making 35 plus saves for the Boston Pride. And then you have Kennedy Marchment. Before ending her season with the Connecticut Whale against Toronto in the semifinals, including the postseason, she was on a 20-game point streak to boon the Whale into 3rd place. For Outstanding Player of the Year, a little bit of a different award. You have Marchment, Gable, and Schroeder once again. Defender of the Year, Callie Flanagan from the Boston Pride, Sydney Morin, who will play for the Minnesota Whitecaps Sunday night, and Mintu Tuominen from the Metropolitan Riveters. Goaltender of the Year, of course, Levier and Chuli are finalists. And then you add, of course, Corrine Schroeder. Newcomer of the Year, Anne-Sophie Betty from the Montreal Force, as well as Lauren Gable and Brittany Howard, who I mentioned plays for the T6. Rookie of the Year. Now, this is a new one. This is for a player who's a true rookie with no pro experience. So Lauren Gable, for example, doesn't qualify because she's played in the PWHPA. But Rookie of the Year would be one of her line mates and former college teammate Elizabeth Giguère from the Boston Pride. Corrine Schroeder is a true rookie. And Natalie Snodgrass, who, along with Jonna Albers, is definitely a player to watch on Sunday for Minnesota. The Denelang Award, named after a player that unfortunately in season 1 went down with an injury during the Winter Classic. That was the first and unfortunately last time we ever saw Wim play a showcase during the Winter Classic. But the Denelang Award, you've got Lauren Kelly, who went down with an injury for the Boston Pride earlier, Lovisa Burnson from the Buffalo Buttes, Casey Anderson from the Metropolitan Riveters, Jonna Albers from the Minnesota Whitecaps, and Sophie Pate from the Montreal Force, and Brianne Wilson-Bennett from the Toronto Six. BWB number 11, another player to watch come Sunday. So I got you through the Isobel Cup Final, a little bit of a preview, and some awards that are coming up. I really hope you tune in. We've got some great hockey, and my only complaint is that the final isn't a series as well, but hopefully we'll get there soon. Well, this has been Erica L. Ayala, your regular host of Locked on Kraken, giving you the Women's Hockey Showcase. Gil and Rachel, thanks so much for having me, and I'll catch you in another 2 weeks. And then by then we'll have a champion, but we'll also be getting for the IIHF Women's Worlds happening in Brampton, Ontario. Can't wait to talk more hockey soon.